Welcome to the best of first-person episodes from Phantoms and Monsters. Please like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you'll be notified of all future uploads.
Black-winged humanoid encounter near Rockford, Illinois. I just found out about the flying humanoid sightings around Chicago. In fact, I'm going to get the book and see if there is anything related to what I encountered in the summer of 2010. This took place in northern Illinois, not far from Rockford. My friend and I were just riding around in my car. As the day continued, we decided to head out towards the country backroads. We were both 17, and this was the summer before our senior year in high school. We had been riding around for several hours at night, and around 10 p.m. we are on a gravel road I wasn't familiar with. It was a location that had lots of farmland all around and a few houses here and there. We were talking while I'm speeding along this gravel road. There was no drinking or drugs involved. The corn on both sides of the road was high. I looked ahead and noticed that the road was about to dip, so I slowed back. As I approached the dip, I could see the corn shaking to the right of me as the headlight hit it. We both stopped talking as we watched the corn. I thought it was probably deer about to sprint out onto the road, so I slowed down to a crawl. The corn was now shaking violently. We're staring at the corn waiting for the deer to jump out. Then all of a sudden, the corn literally parts open just to the right of us. This thing steps out. It was the size of a large man and all black. As it walked out of the corn, it was well illuminated by my headlights. It leaped and opened these huge set of wings and instantly went airborne. It quickly flew right in front of my car and swooped up into the air as it reached the other side of the road. I swear, the first thing that came to my mind was the Jeepers Creepers monster. I didn't see any facial features, but the wings were very wide and looked like that of a giant bat. I floored the gas pedal. My friend was yelling to get out of there. I drove as fast as I could, trying to maintain control on the gravel surface. We drove for a good 5 minutes before saying a word. The whole time we're looking around us, hoping that thing wasn't chasing us. We began to calm down and soon ended up on a road I knew. As I thought about it, that thing looked like it was covered in shiny black tar. It had a weird sheen to it. The fact that it accelerated into flight so quickly had me stumped. My friend and I talked about it through our entire senior year and never did have a clue as to what we saw. We referred to it as the flying tar man. We didn't dare tell anyone else at school. I recently told my wife about it, but she's a skeptic and doesn't believe in the supernatural. Anyway, after I heard about the sightings around Chicago, I figured I'd track you down and write about it. I live in Texas currently. Thanks for reading. Kurt.
Large black fallen angel encountered in North Georgia. The incident happened a couple years ago while traveling back to Atlanta. It occurred on I-75, about 30 minutes south of Chattanooga, Tennessee. It was 1 a.m., driving 70 miles per hour when I noticed a DOT exit sign, maybe a half mile or so down the road, go completely black. As if a giant cloak was draped over it, this creature made a beeline down the berm and directly towards my car. It made a 90-degree right turn and cut right across my car. I thought it was going to hit me. It flew about 5 feet in front of me at the roofline level. It cut across to the median and made another right turn going straight up vertically and then out of sight. My first thought was a pterodactyl, but the wife said that it had human legs. I was able to see the underside of this creature, but never got a good look at its face. I know many Mothman sightings claim those beasts have burning red eyes, but if this creature had red eyes, I would have noticed something when it was hovering in front of the DOT sign. The skin was black and appeared to absorb light. This creature had to be between 6 foot to 8 foot tall, with a wingspan that had to be 15 feet to 20 feet wide. I feel Ephesians 6:12 best describes this creature. I feel it was a fallen angel. A true demon, as described in the Bible, is a disembodied spirit. Georgia doesn't get talked about as much as other hot spots for paranormal, demonic, spiritual creatures, but I have had a few incidents on the interstates of Georgia. I saw a UFO while driving on I-16 heading west coming into Macon, Georgia. It was a silver metallic ball just floating in the air. Made no noise. It floated into a cloud and just disappeared. Then literally in 60 seconds 3 fighter jets, I believe F-16s, come into view and fly right through the very cloud where the UFO disappeared. They were obviously scrambled to intercept this UFO. Those 3 fighter jets crisscrossed the skies in a checkerboard pattern of contrails searching for this UFO. I believe this UFO was interdimensional because it disappeared in a wink of an eye. And once again I was driving with my wife down the interstate. There are many weird things happening in Georgia. BN.
Huge winged humanoid encountered in Joplin, Missouri. Butterfly people. I'm writing to report a flying humanoid sighting. I actually feel guilty for just now reaching out, as my sighting was almost a year ago in June 2019. The sighting took place in Joplin, Missouri, as I was driving from Springfield, Missouri to Kansas City. Normally when I make this drive I go straight up Highway 13 through Bolivar and Clinton. However, on this night there were tornado warnings, and my stepfather told me to go through Joplin instead. The approximate time was somewhere between 7 to 8 p.m. It was not yet dark. It usually gets dark between 8:30 and 9 this time of year. While the tornadoes weren't going to be in my route, there were scattered thunderstorms. At the time of my sighting it was in between one storm and just before another. I mention this for a couple of reasons. 1, because I think there's some correlation between the electric charges of a thunderstorm and the ability to see this creature. I have no idea why I suspect this. And 2, to acknowledge that while it was not dark, it was gray due to the storm. At the time of my sighting I was driving a 2005 Chevy Blazer. The one that's 2-door with the S10 body style. I mention this because I use my vehicle as a way to measure this creature. I was driving down the highway going a little slower than the limit of 70, due to the wetness of the road. If I were to guess I'd say 50 or 55 miles per hour. I did not see the creature until he was pretty much right over me. I say he because that's the feeling I got. The creature was flying over me perpendicular to my direction and over to my right into the wooded area next to the highway. He was so close on top over my vehicle that I could close up see the texture of his wings through my driver's window and sunroof. The sunroof was closed obviously, but I had the shade pulled back, so it was just glass for me to look through. I do not remember any feet or arms and I did not see the head. The only part of the anatomy I saw besides the wings was a small quadrant of the torso region. I'm guessing it was somewhere above the navel, if there were even a navel, and before the pectoral region as I did not see anything like human nipples. The wingspan of this creature had to be between 12 to 16 feet. I mean I'm not great with measurements, but the creature easily could have had the tip of one wing down on the ground in front of my car and the other tip on the ground behind my car, providing it had been in park and he were not flying. And remember, this is tip to tip perpendicular to me, not parallel. My point is, it was like my car was entirely enveloped in his wings, even though it was for a split second. I did not hear any noise. This does seem kind of weird to me considering I don't remember seeing more of his body. But what I find the most interesting is the apparent control the creature seemed to have over my state of mind. As this was happening I was not scared, I was so completely calm. Now not calm as in soothed or comforted, but calm, as if I were just looking at a field of cows or something instead of a huge creature that's supposedly not supposed to exist in our dimension. Similarly, I mentioned I didn't see his head, but an image of his head appeared into my mind, as if he was planting it there. So I know I saw the wings with my aerial and sober eyes, but his head I believe I only saw in my mind shortly after he passed over, and via some kind of controller telepathy. Anyway, I remained unaffected by my sighting until I had gotten about 30 to 50 miles more down the road. That's when the holy craps and what the hells started. Pardon my language, I'm going to assume you've heard it before. So I called my boyfriend and told him what happened, and I texted my friend Cully to tell her as well. Both of them had no issue believing me because I somehow tend to be a magnet for strange experiences, and plenty of times there have been witnesses with me. I am a contactee. But apart from the aliens I had seen and recorded during my 2013 encounter, I have only seen a glimmer man, as far as humanoid or cryptid beings is concerned until this encounter last year. Further down the road I pulled over. I wanted to see if anyone in the area had seen anything like I just had. But I didn't want to describe it in my Google search as to not manipulate the results. So I just Googled cryptid sightings near Joplin, Missouri. Interestingly, the search yielded a bunch of articles about children, seeing what they described as butterfly people who protected them from the rubble during the devastating 2011 tornado which demolished the Joplin area. Sketches were done following the children's descriptions, but they didn't seem to match exactly what I saw. But, on the second or third page of Google there was another sketch apparently drawn by a person back in 2003, whose description matched as best I could tell from what I saw. To my memory, I think the sketch had a less leathery look to the body, but what grabbed me was the way they drew the head, because it matched the image of the head that I believe the creature gave to me telepathically. I want to point out one distinction in this creature's defense. I was never terrified, even after the encounter when I realized what happened. I got absolutely zero evil or demonic feelings associated by him, and I have been proven over time to be able to really trust my intuition involving the supernatural. I wanted to mention this because the sightings I've heard about talk about people screaming like lunatics and being traumatized to their core are calling it a demon. Perhaps they're seeing something different than I did, or perhaps they just haven't had to cope with other paranormal or worldview-shattering experiences before, and are thusly more threatened. It didn't occur to me to reach out when this happened, as I have never reached out with my experiences until this year. I think it's because I've had so many strange things happen to me recently that they're starting to outnumber my normal experiences, and are increasingly harder to ignore. I've heard of your work from many platforms, but was just now re-listening to some episodes of Expanded Perspectives, and the episode from 2017 when they interviewed you came on, and I thought it must be time to share. By the way, Joplin I think is like 8 or 9 hours to Chicago. I could be mistaken, but I've never driven from Joplin to Chicago. Thank you for safeguarding everyone's encounters, and maybe I'll get to hear back from you. All the best, BB.
Large winged cat-like humanoid encountered in Dallas, California. My husband and I own 2 dogs and we walk them for an hour every evening after work. We live in a rural area, Dallas, California, and it can be a bit creepy at night, especially when there's no moon out for some light, and it's pitch dark. This happened a few weeks ago, before daylight saving time changed. My husband and I were on our nightly walk as usual on a particularly dark night. We were on the most rural part of the trail, about 2 miles from any homes. We suddenly got an unnerving feeling, and just then nature went silent. The frogs completely stopped croaking, and the bug noises just stopped and it was silent. I said, "That's weird, there must be a predator nearby." Seconds after I uttered those words, we heard the sound of huge wings flapping, as if something was about to land. We felt the wind power generated by this massive thing. We heard an enormous sycamore tree branch crack under the weight of this thing landing on it. I can't even describe how powerful the wings were. It was a calm, still night with no wind, and the wings had created enough force to actually make my long hair blow around. We both felt the presence of something evil and menacing. We started running and neither of us was brave enough to look back. Just then we saw it flying away overhead. It wasn't a large bird. Its wings flapped in an unnatural way as it lurched upwards. My husband is a true skeptic, but couldn't rationalize or begin to explain what we had just seen. He even told his fellow workers and friends about it. He has downright refused to walk in that area since then. This is not the first time I've seen something in that area. Last summer I saw a blacker than black shadow figure that looked like a large cat-human hybrid emerge from the creek and climb up the massive tree and disappear. After that we had really bad things happen in a series of 3. That's a story for another time, but my point is that there is something in that area. Any thoughts on what that could have been? The week it happened I had been telling my husband about shapeshifters, so I wonder if I attracted something? I have abilities as it is and have been susceptible to experiences like this, but this really freaked us out. RP.
This is Lon Strickler. If you like this program, it would help us if you would give it a thumbs up. Then subscribe and click the bell icon so you get notification when we upload new first-person encounters. We have many more to come very soon. And by the way, if you have a suggestion or an experience of your own, please leave a comment.